Welcome back, everybody. I wanted to start out by showing you this. Today I did a dry run reassembly of the radiator core inside of the box that is to hold it, and honestly it went just flawlessly. We won't be able to see it so well up here, so we'll look down here. Yeah, I started off by making 1/16 of an inch thick cork rubber gaskets for both header plates, and then I assembled the core to the bottom tank, put the top tank on. The side pieces just slid right in. The bolts all started by hand. Two things really helped us out. The first was the original gaskets were very, very thin paper gaskets. So even these 1/16 of an inch thick cork gaskets, they took up quite a lot of that clearance that we made when I milled the gasket surfaces on both tanks. And the other thing that helped us, they gave us generously oversized bolt holes everywhere. So they built a lot of adjustability into all these pieces, I think, just for ease of fitting everything together. So I know clearances and stack up height was a big concern in the comment section. I've read numerous questions regarding the mods that we did here, and I'm happy with how it all went together. I also wanted to make sure we did a test fit of everything before I brought all those pieces to the radiator shop. I didn't want to just hand them a basket case and be like, I'm sure you'll figure something out, trying to make their job as easy as possible, because I remember what it was like having basket cases thrown in my lap back at like the Ford dealer. It never made for a fun day. So it makes me feel better that I can tell them, here's how it went together, everything is going to fit, and we can proceed confidently from there. So that was the first thing I wanted to address here in this episode. The rest of it is going to be structured a lot like a normal behind the scenes episode is over on the members page. Over there, I delve pretty deep into the inner workings of YouTube, things that happen on the channel here, the real nuts and bolts of everything, answer quite a lot of member questions. And I had a few from the public feed this time that I think would make for a very good episode, and it would be a good transition into a little bit more of the backstory of X231, how we got to where we are today, in short. So let's get started. The first comment is from Jim Amundsen, and it is under the X231 episode where we assembled the grill panels and the radiator top tank. And I had mentioned that I had not seen that site since 2007. And these are the types of comments that I really like to see, because it shows that the viewers are engaged, and it offers us an opportunity to tell a little bit more of the X231 story. But he says, great to see it coming together. Can't wait to see you put some paint on it. I can't believe you waited 17 long years to get that together. A very patient man. And I responded, I said, it was circumstance that sidelined this project for the majority of that time. After we finally got into this tractor and saw how bad everything actually was, we knew we were in over our heads for what our capabilities were at that time. Even after tooling up and equipping ourselves for about a decade, we're still mostly trying to do jobs on this restoration that exceed our skill and the capabilities of our equipment. And that's really the truth. This was 2006. We were fresh off the restoration of X253, the prototype crawler, and that machine really didn't fight us at all. It wasn't that bad of a job, even though half of it was a hastily knocked together prototype. So we decided to drag poor old X231 up to the shop, and we were going to get into that, see what it was going to take to get it running. And we had hoped that we were going to get it running and just drive it around a little bit before we completely disassembled it. Well, we pulled it up here, and the more we got into it, the more we found. Aside from the visual breakage and problems that we knew it had, the back end had a pretty good rumble to it. Sometimes the back wheels would want to sort of lock up. We knew there were some serious drivetrain issues, but until we really started taking panels off and we saw how badly the rust and corrosion had set in, how many pieces had torch holes in them, how many pieces had ugly weld, some very dodgy prior repairs. Well, we ended up stripping it down to a rolling chassis, and later that summer we had a mobile sandblaster come in and just took all the old paint and grease off of it, got it for the most part down to bare metal so we could get an even better look at everything. And that's when we really started seeing how the drawbar had been ripped off several times. They had tried to gob weld it back on several times. All the bolts were bad. Almost all the threaded holes were stripped. Way more pieces broken than we had realized. We had noticed there was a significant crack in the bottom of the back end housing, so that is never a good sign. After that, we tore it down to sub-assemblies like transmission, back end, engine. We started taking those apart, and then everything that came out of the rear end case came out in pieces. Several components had blown up. Gears had teeth that were chipped. Shafts were bent. Everything was broken. Everything was just in horrible shape. The transmission was still an X factor, but it didn't really want to shift that well. Engine, who knew? No compression. We were definitely discouraged at that point. We had not expected to find that level of damage. So I had to put the project on the back burner at that point in time because we weren't sure if this was even fixable, and we had already started talking about possibly just reassembling X231 to be a static display of what a prototype tractor used to be. We weren't sure we could even repair some of the damage that we had found. So by the end of that year, this was December 2006, we still had not done anything further to X231. I took a $750 gamble on a running and driving 445 parts tractor, basically. I got the thing home. I took it for about 2 laps around the property just to test out the engine and get a feel for what the gear train was like. And then we disassembled that to the last nut and bolt, and we used it as a case study to compare all the components on the inside, especially in the driveline department, to what we had pulled out of X231 to see how similar in dimension these pieces were and to see if we could even glean anything from it that would fit in X231's castings. And fortunately, barring a few tooth count differences, like in the ring and pinion, almost everything was going to be a pretty direct changeover. So that gave us a little bit of optimism. So the following year, 2007, we were able to take X231's horribly cracked and broken rear end casting down to Nevada, Iowa. Midwest Cylinder Head does excellent repair work on cast iron and cylinder heads and everything else down there. They put the whole thing in a giant oven, did a thorough preheat, and were able to fix the large crack from the bottom of the case. They also replaced some of the metal that had blasted out and broken out around drawbar brackets. And they built up a lot of stuff in the back end around the live power shaft bearing bore. And we told them we would do all the machining on it. So once we got that piece back, and that was another $1,700 to have that repair done back in 2007. But if we couldn't have, built a good enough housing to put all these parts back into, again, X231 would have largely been DOA. Now, this is where the project really stalled for about 10 years. We knew that we were going to have to engineer some sort of a positionable and accurate boring bar apparatus to be able to return all the proper dimensions of the repaired areas of that case. And we knew what we had to do. We just didn't really have anything that we needed to actually do it. So we started collecting boring bar pieces, bearing blocks, just anything that could possibly come in handy. We were kind of building this contraption in our imaginations as we ran across parts and pieces that we could use for it. And another thing that held us back from it was the time that it was going to take to do all of that work, because Senior was still working full-time. He had not yet retired then. That's when my job at the Ford dealer had really kind of got up to full speed, and I was putting in more and more effort every day. And then you have all the other life things that get in the way: buying property, paying that down, fixing grandma's car, making sure everybody has firewood, just all the usual stuff. We tackled a few other smaller, simpler restoration projects in that time, but we knew we couldn't devote the type of labor to X231 that it was going to require. And when I left the Ford dealer the first time and hired on with BNSF Railway, that was an up and down deal. I haven't told that story very much, but I spent about 2 years on and off of furlough layoff with BNSF. But furlough layoff was actually the best thing that could have happened for the YouTube channel here, because that's the first time I was able to really start devoting real effort to, let's actually churn out videos and try and build a channel. So in 2017, that's when, well, we finally really got back into X231, and then that's where the video feed here finally starts. So the rest, as they say, is history. You can go back into the X231 playlist and you can see the earlier episodes on this were pretty tough to watch. I didn't have much for camera personality. Didn't like being in front of a camera, didn't have good equipment, but we were doing it. We were getting a record compiled and put out there. So being that YouTube is my full-time job now, Senior's retired, he can devote a lot more time to it. It just took us that long to equip ourselves with tools, with shop equipment, and the most important commodity, time, to be able to devote to a project that is this big.
And that brings us to the next comment. Cal Rob asks, how are the watch minutes doing on this project? Between prototype burnout and the success of Swamp Angel, this MM got shelved. I'm glad you're back on it, and I'm looking forward to seeing the end result. And I need to tie this in with William Schmeidl's comment. He says, awesome work as always. Thank you, William. Also, I noticed the sub count has been growing at a fairly steady rate, so congrats and wishing you continued growth. Now, the majority of the recent channel growth has been tied to this episode alone. Farmall, Super M, Log Hauler, and Senior Stories from the Woods. We're at just shy of 300,000 views on it right now. It's been out 41 days, and I've picked up 984 new subscribers from that episode by itself.
And I still don't really know what makes certain videos just take off like that. If I did, I would try to do that every time I uploaded something. I really didn't put any more effort into that video than I usually do. It's the same type of editing. It's the same type of subject matter. It's within the same old framework. And for some reason, it just clicked with the algorithm. And for my channel, 300,000 views on something is doing pretty well. But what really grows the channel are all those new subscribers. We've got just shy of 1,000 new people that decided, I like this video enough that I want to subscribe to this channel. So then how much other content that they go on to watch. That's where you get the watch minutes. That's where you get the ad plays. That's where you generate the revenue. That's how you grow the channel. At the end of the day, that's what you're after, numbers. Unfortunately, X231 does not click like that at all. On average, I'm about 50% viewership on anything that has X231 in the title as I am on just about anything else. Like I said, it's just not something that's ever really taken off with the masses.
But to get back to the question of views, so my bread and butter on the channel here has always been Caterpillar. Farmall is a close second, and then like the operating videos like plow days, some of the fieldwork stuff, that pretty much performs even with the rest of that top tier stuff. And the views on that stuff do pretty well. But you look at watch minutes, they always start off high because you get your initial slug of core subscribers that are going to watch anything that you put out. That's where you always get the numbers pretty high charging out of the gate. And then after about day 3, it starts to taper off because your core serious group has already seen it. And then after that, it just goes down to just the trickle that the algorithm puts out to everyone else. So as your watch minutes go on, the longer it's out, the lower watch duration you're going to have on an average video. You're just hoping to catch maybe one out of every 1,000 people that's going to like it and decide to bail onto the channel and subscribe. X231, though, is kind of an anomaly. It only gets about 50% of the views as the more popular stuff, but of the views that it does get, the watch minutes stay pretty much consistent all the way through, meaning even though there's a lot fewer people that want to watch X231, the people that do are such serious fans that they will watch just about every minute of every episode that I put out without fail on it. So the best strategy that I can employ with X231 to keep that project, we'll say solvent, make sure that it pays for itself at the end of the month, I just need to try to put out more videos, a higher number of videos on it in the same time frame, which is very difficult because the type of work we do on this tractor is not fast stuff. They aren't quick jobs. They aren't easy jobs. It takes several days worth of planning, engineering, fabricating things. Like Senior and I were in the midst of turning out the boring bar guide bushings that are going to go in down here to help us mill out the brazing repair over here. We will have 2 to 3 days worth of legwork into
getting to the point where we can turn the camera on to begin recording that next episode. So that's another reason why X231 burns me out the way that it does, because you're working 3 times as hard for about half of the return, if that makes any sense.
The next comment comes from Hunter Clements. He says, Squatch, 2 questions. Are you going to red enamel the inside of the press fit radiator discharge nipple? He is asking about this piece of pipe right here that the lower radiator hose goes on. That would be a no, because typically pieces like steel plugs, steel pieces of pipe like this did not get any kind of a coating like that. Mainly just cast iron compartments. One running joke I have with Gliptol is I like to call it Frank's Red Hot, because once I put it on one piece on this tractor, after that the comment section seems to want to see it put on everything. And if you know what the catchphrase is for Frank's Red Hot. And the second part is, fast forward to the tractor's completion. In the absence of the value to you, what will the Moline prototype be worth? Value to the world of restored equipment and actual monetary value. I know that it will be in immaculate condition.
And that's really an impossible question to answer, because to assign a concrete value to something, you need to have some market data on it. In other words, a log of transactions of similar items from the past. And with prototype one-off tractors, we don't have that. Not that many prototype tractors have ever been bought or sold. And I would wager of the ones that have changed hands, the majority of those deals have gone down privately. So we don't have much for documented auction sales, really anything like that. So the only real way to determine what X231 would be worth would be to take it to a reputable and well advertised auction house, put it up on the block, and see what the temperature of the room is on that day. How many people are there, how many want it, and how badly do they want it. And that's the only way you'll ever know what X231 is truly valued at. Personally, the highest dollar amount I've ever put on X231 is $50,000, because there were a couple days that if I could find someone that would take X231 off my hands, if I paid them $50,000 to do so and they could never bring it back, I'd have done that deal in a heartbeat.
And we'll round it out with Jay Mailbell. He says, wow, you and Senior are having a tag team to get Christine to behave. Have you kept up with your time on X231?
I've never kept track of the time that I've put into any of my projects ever. I couldn't even guess. X231 is especially impossible because that goes back to 2006, and those records were never kept to begin with. So the other main X factor is the YouTube part of it. Doing what I'm doing right now, talking to this camera that I'm pointing at. Easily half of my day, every day out here, is consumed with keeping this camera rolling. Okay, getting it set for the shot. Is everything I want in the shot? Are we too close? Is it getting blurry? How's the light? Too much glare coming in? On and on and on. And then settling on dialogue, getting most of the way through the dialogue, stumbling over my tongue, scrapping the whole clip, starting over, ending with some dialogue that I'm happy with, and then it repeats. Set up to do a pass with the milling machine. Get partway into it, stop the machine, set the camera, and then get the shot that I want, stop the machine again, get the camera out of the way so I can finish the pass, and then reset for the next one. It's easily half of every day. So without a time clock on the wall that I could punch in on when I'm gonna actually put wrench to tractor and then go punch out of, so that I can set the camera, so that I can go punch in again, turn the camera on, do the work to punch back out. That would be the only way that I could really keep track of the time that I actually spend on a project. And this is not a complaint at all, because YouTube is my job now, so it's part of the bargain. That's what I signed on to do. But I am honestly saying, if I didn't have to try to structure everything, explain the steps and show the steps and get them on the camera well enough to string together a coherent sequence of clips to build a video, I could get twice as much done in a day every day. But then the projects wouldn't pay for themselves. So it's part of the deal. So we come out here and we chase the camera around and we get done with what we can get done and try to get as much done in a day as we can. And it takes all of my time. It's all I do from when I wake up to when I go to bed. If I'm not out here working on something or recording it, I'm in the house editing or answering comments or doing channel maintenance. It's easily 16 hours a day every day. So, and it's still the best gig I've ever had. So I think that rounds it out. Thank you for watching, everyone. I think this one went a bit long, so we'll just wrap it right here. Good questions, good comments. Thank you for watching, and we'll just hope X231 can get a few more eyeballs on her as she starts to look like a tractor again, because for the effort that goes into it, it's kind of disappointing seeing the results that it actually gives us. But we'll keep trying. As always, hope to see you back again.